Hey, 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 good evening, everybody, and happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing? I'm gonna give Facebook a couple of seconds to do its thing. Drop in the comments where everybody is coming from, where you're watching, who you're watching with. Just sound off in the comments, say hey, because we love y'all and we're happy that y'all here. We're thankful for each and every one of y'all. So, if you missed last week's episode, it was a really, really good conversation. Make sure you go and check that out. In the comments is the YouTube channel. It's easier to find everything there because it's all a nice little playlist for you. So click on that, follow that channel, catch updates if you can't catch us live. But y'all know we're here every Wednesday, so catch us live so we can say hey and talk with you. All right, so tonight is another good one. I have to admit, I don't think we've ever had a conversation that I just been like, man, about. But this one is a really good. I think it's a great kind of like piggyback to what we talked about last Wednesday, because we're here every Wednesday. We're talking about how do you get into the right rooms in front of the right people. So we mean this in like the nicest way. Like there are wrong people in the world, but what we mean is like business wise, how do you get into the rooms that are going to move you and grow you, and how do you get in front of those people they're going to move you and grow you and get you furthermore in the right rooms and in front of the right people? Because there are people just like in your everyday life that can hold you back, who are not for you businessly, and a lot of times they end up being people that we know and we think we gotta drag them along with us, and that's not where it's at, sister friend. So you gotta let them go, and sometimes you gotta be with people. Dayna has said it before, it is not personal, it's business. So this is what we're here for, right? So we're talking about how do you get into the right rooms in front of the right people. Y'all grab your notebooks, your pens, because this is probably when you're going to want to write some tips down, or make sure you favorite this, save this, so you know to come back, so you can rewind, fast forward, and all the things. All right. So ladies, how do you get in the right rooms and get in front of the right people?
I don't know. Can't tell you nothing because I'm trying to get in the right room with the right people. As you see, I'm representing Ujima Maternity Network. That's a doula and midwifery network here in Arkansas. And what I want to do here in my area is get in the right room with the right people to say, hey, people who look like me, these mamas are out here dying. These mamas and babies are out here dying. We need to do something. And I don't know how to get in front of those people. Maybe I need to create another hour in the day. I don't know. But hey, if y'all have anything, any tips, any tricks, how can I get in the right room to say, I need to make a change in this aspect of doula or maternity care? Because I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to work. That's all I want to do. And if you have not watched that episode where it was World Doula Week, go back and watch, because we talked to a doula by the name doula and midwife. By now she's a midwife. Nicole Fletcher. She is dope. She's full of resources and all those things, but I believe she knows how to get in the right room with the right people. Maybe she can teach me a thing or two. So what y'all have?
All right. Since we over here repping stuff, I'm gonna go ahead and rep my oil swag, natural hair, save the edges, #cedarwood, dnawellnessco.com/shop. Anywho, so I think something that you said that was super, super important, and I think sometimes we forget this. First and foremost, you need to identify who is it that you want to get in front of, right? Like, who are you trying to target? Who do you want attention, and why? I think if you know who and why, then that will kind of put into play the way you need to do and go about it. And so I'll just use my example. Actually, no, I want to start with, because I never forget how many people are Les Brown fans? Love Les Brown. Love me some Les Brown. I'll never forget he had talked about, he had like this stint where he wanted to get on like a radio station or something like that. I might be butchering the story just a little bit, but the underlying message will make sense. But And he just kept practicing. He kept practicing. So he would be ready when the opportunity presented itself. And he knew what station he wanted to get on, and he would constantly call the radio station like, hey, you know, do you have anything available? Do you have anything going? Da, 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 da. And they're like, nope, nothing is available. We don't have anything for you. And he would keep calling, and he would keep calling, and he would keep calling, and he would keep calling. They're like, nope, nothing available for you. And for whatever reason, one day, the disc jockey that was supposed to be on the radio was sick. And so he was sick. They didn't have anybody, and he was able to be slotted on and end up long term getting a spot on the radio. And the reason I start with that is he knew this is the radio station I want to be on, right? And so he did what he needed to do to get the person's attention that needed it, right? And then he was resilient enough to go through the nose and keep asking and keep asking and keep asking and keep asking. And in combination with that, he got himself prepared, right? So a lot of times we'll be knocking on doors, and then we'll be like, can you teach me? And they're like, what do you? No, we don't have the energy and bandwidth to teach you. Like, so I'm going to put that in order so it makes sense, so you guys can write this down. So first and foremost, identify who is it that you want to be in front of, right? And then 2, be persistent with getting in front of them. They're all humans, right? They all pee and poop just like you and me, you know what I mean? So at some point, like, they have an email address, or they have an office they work out of, or they have an assistant that you can contact. There's somebody in that little stream of line that you can get communication to, right? And then from that standpoint, educate yourself to be prepared when the opportunity presents itself. Don't wait to get into that situation and, oh, they're going to train me, or, oh, they're going to teach me, or, oh, they're going to show me how to do it. Because a lot of times, especially if it's somebody that you really, really want to get in front of, they're at a place in their business, they don't have the bandwidth to be teaching stuff. But if you already have the skills and they can see you as an asset instead of a liability, they're more than likely to take you on when the opportunity presents itself. So that always stuck with me. And so then I'll go into my little story, and then, you guys can kind of pick it up from there. I remember when I first started doing like MIB stuff, so Moms in Business organization. And I was like, I want to get on Fox 2. And where I live, so if you're familiar with my area at all, the headquarters for Fox 2 is right off of 9 Mile, probably about 1.5 miles up from my house. And so depending on where I'm going, I pass it all the time. And I just remember, like, even like, you can ask my kids, I'd be like, I'm going to get on Fox 2. I'm going to get on Fox 2. And they're like, okay, mommy, you're going to get on Fox 2, right? I didn't know how to get on Fox 2. But what I knew is they have a website. It lists all their anchors, right? They have email addresses. And so I was like, let me get a media packet template, right? And so I started writing letters. I started sending out emails. I started calling phone numbers or whatever. And I got a lot of no's. But at some point, I got on Fox 2. And so I think it's so important that you stay persistent and resilient, because it's not going to necessarily happen overnight, and it's not going to necessarily be easy, but it's worth it once you kind of identify those things.
I agree 100%. I loved all that. Since we're repping stuff, I give Detroit a lot of crap on here just because every time we talk about something that happens, is happening or coming from Detroit. And I'm like, yo, but I had the pleasure. So I had to, get me some paraphernalia before I left. I had the pleasure of going to Detroit a few weeks back. I got to be in an event, which we've talked about a little bit on a couple of episodes. Dayna spoke at an Empower Her conference, which was amazing. But Detroit was never on my list of places to meet, not to go, not because of everybody knows Detroit, but most people know Detroit for the wrong reasons. You know of it like, oh, this popped up in Detroit. It's like Chirac. Ain't nobody going to Chicago. But Detroit, it was a great place. Add it to your bucket list of places that you need to go, because it was super, super welcoming. I had an amazing time. There's so much culture and heritage within, like, on every corner. Like, I was amazed. Like, and it is true big city to me. Like, I live in what they think is big city, but it's really not. Like, it's play. It was so great. So add it to your bucket list, because like it was everything. So I had to grab paraphernalia. And I'm in the hats these days. Yeah, it was awesome. So get yourself to Detroit. I was only there for 3 or 4 days, but you could definitely go for a week, 2 weeks, and have an amazing time. There was so much to see and do, and I did not get to do it all. So anyway, back to what we talk about. I don't completely forgot y'all. No, but seriously, I love what Dayna said, for the mere fact that if you didn't write anything down, you need to write down. You need to have direction. We have talked about this a lot. I know over the last 2 weeks, I have noticed people doing this unniche thing. Like, people are throwing away the idea of niching, like they're tired of niching. And I think it's just a buzzword, right? I think this does actually really go hand in hand with what we were talking about on our last week's episode. It's just that niching is like, we get tired of buzzwords because it makes you feel overwhelmed and exhausted, and you burn out because you're like, I got a niche. But really, it's direction. It's you understanding who you want to tailor your business to. Who am I talking to? Because you can't talk to everybody, right? You can't physically be in everybody's window and appease everybody, because you're burning out. Niching down is literally just that, and you have to do that with wanting to get into the right rooms in front of the right people. I would take it a step further, as like Dayna said. First of all, where are you wanting to be? Are you trying to be on stages talking? Are you, in Andriana's case, you're in a small area? Are you trying to bring it to your area? Are you trying to leave your area and go other places? Like, I think you had a great opportunity when we had, child, what was her name? See, I'm terrible with names.
Nicole.
I'm sorry, Nicole. I'm so sorry. When we had Nicole on, like, I was like, in my head, I'm like, collaboration, Andriana, collaboration. Like, this is everything. This would be a perfect way for you to get in front of the right people and into the right rooms. Jump on people's podcasts. If there is somebody, I see it all the time, people saying, I'm looking for, guest speakers talking about these things. Even if you feel like maybe I'm not the place to offer a freebie or a tip or whatever, you have a story to tell. And the person's going to interview and they can say no. And maybe they'll come back to you. But get yourself into these avenues. We have even said multiple times on episodes, would love to have you on and come and speak. This is your chance. And I don't know, because after a couple of weeks, I stopped looking. I probably should look at our numbers. But you're going to get in front of at least hundreds of people on Facebook, and then an extra amount on YouTube, and when it's shared everywhere else, it's going to get you. Somebody's going to see it, and you're going to have the opportunity to potentially be in another room with another right person, right? So take those free opportunities as well. Line those up. When you see somebody that's like, hey, I'm looking for speakers to do this, or I have this event, if you have the direction of who you want to talk to, it's going to bring down how many networking events you have to go to. One of the things brought up at Empower Her was they were doing every literal event they could possibly do. This was the Red Lipstick Revolution ladies. And they were like, we were going to everything, we're burnt out. But if I want to speak to women, I want to do this, and you're going to go to networking events that are exclusive or higher on the priority list for women. If you're trying to reach people talking about, got to pick on Andriana because she so rawly said she didn't know. Like, you're going to go to when they have those those events at convention centers where they're talking about baby showers, springtime baby showers, bridal showers. They do the bridal shows. I'm assuming they do baby shows. I don't know. I'm past that phase of my life. But go to those events and, hand out your cards, because obviously the people there are looking for your service. They're looking for the things that you're doing. And you never know who's gonna have, you never know who you're gonna meet. Follow. One of the things that I loved, which QR codes are big, was at this Empower Her event. So look for Dayna to post for 2024 so you can go and get all these goodies. But instead of business cards, carry your QR code, because maybe you go and you just meet connections and you're just like, follow me, right? Because nobody looks at business cards, you stick them in our pockets, which is true because I have done that. And then you're like, oh crap, where did it go? Where we could have just followed each other like that. And now, to Dayna's point, you're on that network's list. Like, oh, this child keeps bothering me. Then they may need you and you'll get your break. But you can't do those things if you don't know who you want to talk to, who you want to serve. Like, who do you want to speak to? Right? Like, if your thing is, I want to sit down with Oprah. I mean, I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but you would need to start by making your steps towards Oprah. Or if you want to, I don't know, so many talk show hosts these days, but if you want to get on the Real or whatever else, like you're not going to just run up to the Real's executives and be like, hey, I want to get on your show. Well, who are you? You got to take those steps to get there, right? You can't eat an elephant in one big bite. So start taking steps to get yourself there. And it starts with what Dayna said. Like, where are you trying to go? What rooms are you trying to be in? Who are you trying to talk to? Because if you don't know that, well, you're going to be talking to all the wrong people.
And I want to take it back to last week. I know we talked about being socially acceptable and all those things and getting in front of the right people. I said I still struggle with ain't and can't and yeah and nah all the time, because I mean, on paper I sound like this. If I'm writing letters to legislators and everything, I'm sounding like this on paper. But when I get in front of them, I was like, wait a minute, it's not the same person that wrote us all these letters, because it's going to be different. So to those people that are looking to get in the room, yeah, the letter got you in the room, but now how you going to act? Now, Dana last week said she show up as Dayna all the time. I don't do that, because on paper, I'm Andriana, and then in person, I'm Dree, because that's who you going to get. I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that. So, I mean, where's the line of being, I don't know, being a certain way, being socially acceptable in both places? I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to rack my brain too much. I got too much going on up here. I got a whole lot of ideas, but don't know what I'm doing. Help me out. Comments, ladies, what y'all got?
So with that, though, I will say there's certain aspects that aces in their places. So and when you say using certain words, I don't think using certain words is a problem. But if you feel like you're not an effective communicator, that's a whole nother thing, right? Like, if you feel like when you sit down and talk to me verbally, like I could be more effective in my communication, I think then at that point, you're talking about possibly having some type of team or possibly having a spokesperson for you, because that's a little different than just, okay, I use certain words, but I can still get my point across, and you know what I'm talking about, right? So to me, just because I said ain't, you gonna know what I'm trying to say when I'm done saying it, right? It don't matter how my tone is, it don't matter how my slang is. You understand me very clear, because I'm good at communication, right? Like, I'm going to get my point across. You're going to understand what I'm saying. So I do think that those are two slightly different things. Now, if you feel like, okay, I know exactly what I want to say, and when I put it on paper, it makes sense, but then when I go to communicate it to other people, it's not received in the power or impact that I want it to be received. I think that's a little bit different. And I think you do then at that point maybe need to have other people that show up as the representation, which is not saying that you're no longer being genuine to who you are, but you understand. And I'll use like kind of a marketing thought pattern behind this, because I always tell my small business owners to think of the target buyer and the end buyer. And the reason that you need to think about both and they're not the same is, for example, let's say I'm selling a children's book, right? So my end buyer is maybe the parent that is going to read my book to their children, right? That's my end buyer. But my target buyer might actually be the retail store that is going to house the book that I want to sell, right? Because I want to sell directly where then it hits the masses. And so when you think about even in your own industry, right, getting in the right rooms or getting in front of the right people, you might need to speak differently to your target buyer versus your end buyer. So, because we're staying with the doula thing, your end buyer, in a sense, might be the people that are benefiting from the services that you guys offer and saving these children that are not making it, right? Whereas your target buyer is the legislators. Like the target buyer is like, hey, you guys are the ones that make the laws. You guys are the ones that's going to affect the change. And so how you speak to that target buyer is going to be different than that end buyer, right? You have a relationship on this level with these people. So you might be ain't all the other slangs over here, but for the target buyer, because they're the ones that have the benefit of changing these laws, the communication might be different just because they might not understand what you're saying. So I think that it's super, super important to kind of balance out the two of those. And with that said, I also feel like when it comes to getting in front of the right people, and I'll use this from a business standpoint, sometimes you might have to invest. Sometimes you might have to invest money. Sometimes you might have to invest time. But either way, you might have to make an investment. This is something that I see people not do a lot. Like, I think, unfortunately, COVID got us so comfortable behind a screen that we still want to maybe shoot out a post and it's going to our 5 friends. And we're like, I don't understand why my business isn't maintaining. And you're like, because you need to actually talk to humans, right? And maybe the people that are in your level aren't the people you need to be talking with. So what rooms are the people that you need to talk to hanging out with? A lot of times they're paying for the rooms that they're in, right? They're the ones that are, and granted, don't spend more money than you have, but they're the ones that are in rooms that are $75 a ticket, right? They're in rooms that are $55 a ticket, right? So because they are already saying, I want to invest in myself, I want to invest in my business, I want to invest in resources. And so those are the people that are more than likely also going to be who you need to talk to further your business. But it also needs to be mutual. So don't always think that you have to reach up. Sometimes there are cross relationships. You know, if you're in the same room and they're willing to pay that $75 too, those probably are your people, and you can kind of glean and learn from them too. So don't be afraid to invest, because I think a lot of times people are like, I don't know why I keep getting the same caliber of people. I'm like, well, if you huffing and puffing over a $20 ticket, the people around you huffing and puffing over a $20 ticket, of course they're not going to buy your $300 whatever you sell it, because they can't even invest in a $20 something. Those aren't the people you want, right? So you need to invest, and then you want to be around other people that are willing to invest as well.
Yeah, and sticking with, like, just because you said legislation, like, I think it's not, again, the like Dayna said, so you have the practice. If you're wanting to put yourself, if, like Dayna mentioned, not sending in a team is not an option, and that's something that you can't, like, you have to show up for yourself, then you have to practice. Because talking to a senator, the things that they're looking for, or your state's representative is looking for, is not the same thing that a mother who had a terrible birth first time around is looking for. A lot of that is emotional, right? Like, she's looking for the support and somebody to just listen or say, you know, look, I understand, this is what we're going to do. When it comes to politics, your politicians, they want hardcore facts, and how is this going to spin up on the Hill? Like, when they stand up there and send this up, like, give me numbers. I don't care if, you know, it was a 45-hour labor and this happened. Like, that doesn't mean, like, the emotional stuff doesn't sell to them. So, you know, a lot of times when we use our swag, it's emotion driven. So imagine yourself, so it's just putting, like Dayna said, you don't have to change who you are, but you got to speak to people differently. Where like legislation, it's boring and it's numbers and it's everything is factual and it's to the point. You're not having to spin them any story. Like I would imagine that they appreciate somebody coming in and being like, bing bang boom 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 bam, that's it. Here's all the paperwork that you need, all the numbers that you need. This is what's going to back up your argument when you take this to the floor. They're like, oh well, shoot, all I gotta do is go up there with my badge and move on, right? Whereas you're not gonna, like, a mom's like, I don't care about the numbers, like, now you've just annoyed me on to the next. So it in practice will do that. We mentioned it in the last episode. Again, go check that out, YouTube, link in the comments, that it's about comfort, right? Like, you're gonna tailor your conversation, your sales pitch, or whatever to be comfort, but doesn't mean that you have to completely trample on who you are. Like, you can deliver to a senator or your state representative in a way that's like, look, I'm passionate about this and this is what's going to get done, and the people that I'm talking about are like me, standing in front of you, and this is what we need, without being like, and you're gonna do because because they don't care about that and you lost them at the first chicken bob, right? So practice would get you there. And definitely, I think Dayna, off on another thing, made a perfect point about, I've seen it like 5 times. I've seen it 5 times this week. Somebody saying, y'all don't want to invest, or y'all don't want to pay to do this. You want everything to be free. Well, why are you still posting in a group that says free? People are here looking for free. Or why y'all always want something in return? You're in a trade group. Like, this is what we do. We trade things. Right now, you want me to give you something for nothing, and I'm not here for that. You're not going to go to a reptile or gun convention and say, will you take my pamphlet and show up at my doula class, because they're like, we do snakes and guns, not babies. So you can't try to take an orange and make apple juice. Like, you have to go where the apples are, right? I don't know where that came from, but it felt right, y'all.
So all in all, it's all about code switching. And I just realized this past week, I suck at code switching. Can't do it.
I disagree with you. I don't code switch. I completely disagree. I feel like it's about having the right people in play. I feel like it is being okay to ask for what you want in front of the right people. And if I don't have the resources or the know-how in something, I'm going to outsource that. So I'll use another example. And this is somebody that was famous, but before she was famous, it was like she didn't have an assistant. So for her, when somebody came to her and was like, hey, we want to hire you for a brand deal, or we want to hire you for something, she would write the emails and she would communicate back to the people, but she would communicate like she had an assistant, right? Because she wanted the clout so that they would respect her more. Like, oh, okay, she has an assistant. She has somebody that's working for her. And so she gave it a name and everything. And I honestly feel like we are now, and I get it really excited. It's so funny because I'm excited all about the AI stuff and, chat GBT and all this other stuff. At this point, like, you can literally have a computer spell out exactly what you need to say to legislature, right? Like, how you need to say what you need to say. I don't think you need to code switch to do that. I think you just need to know, okay, what is this person looking for? Do I have what it takes to be able to deliver it so I can get the results that I want? Or do I need to partner with somebody? And when I say team, I don't mean like you need to hire somebody, but within your, I must say, Umaji, how do you say it? Let's say it wrong. In your, oh, okay, my bad. In your collective, right? There's somebody that knows how to communicate well, right? And if you guys are all trying to get the same goal, then I don't know, Tasha over here might be the one that goes to DC and talks to legislator, whereas you might be the one that's writing all the information for it. I just feel like there are certain people that are shining or are going to shine in a certain place, but that doesn't mean they need to be somebody different. They're just better at communicating. They're just better at, showing up in a certain light. I know things that I'm not good at, and I don't try to do those things. Like, I outsource anything that doesn't serve me. I don't think it's code switching, but that's just my opinion. I feel like it's just, there are certain people, like if it's legislature, like, that's who you need to talk to, right? You can't go around that. You can't like talk to, I don't know, Joe Blow. Like, you have to talk to the legislature. Like, if you want the laws changed, this is who you have to talk to. There's nothing you can do differently to get around the change that you're trying to make. You can educate the people, but those aren't the people that are going to make the changes, right? Like, so I do think that it's important that you have the tools to be able to actually communicate those things. And I also think there's a level of service. You have to go in and be able to say, I am willing to start at the bottom, and I'm willing to serve, and I'm willing to learn, right? So right rooms, right people. Sometimes you might work for free. Sometimes you might, show up just to say that I am around the people that I know can affect change, or I know that can help me get to where I need to go.
I was gonna, Dayna always be, her last little word be snatching my brain. I'd be like, ah. I was gonna say the similar, the very similar thing, but I think you honestly, it's like, they're like your kids, right? You don't change up your message, but you have to deal with each of your children differently. Like, my oldest is always like, you handle him so and you come, but it's like the message was the same. Like, he and I have actually had to have a conversation like, yeah, but what did you get from what I told your brother? Oh, this. So I have to handle him a lot more delicately because he takes things like, holy moly. Whereas you're like, okay, I got it, Mom, enough. And it's like, it's different. I don't change like who I am. I'm animated and I can be hard, but it's like, you're very deliberate about how you're delivering because that's their understanding. And to Dayna's point, like, you're going up to legislation, since we're on this topic, and these are probably some of the stuffiest people, right? Their culture and the ways that they were brought up and the things that surround them won't lead them to a understanding maybe what you're trying to say. If it's like, they understand the word ain't. So if you're like saying ain't, I don't know when you would say the word ain't doing that, but I was trying to think of like a sentence, but I couldn't come up with one. But it's just, I don't even want to say dumbing that down because there might be a senator watching and then we just offended somebody. But you're speaking to them like on their level, right? So you've got to come to them and like I said, Dayna took out, be coachable, because you're going to walk into a session with, hopefully you get face-to-face conversation with your state representative, because I'm sure that's where you guys would want to start. But they're going to be like, this is what's not going to work. This is what I'm going to need from you. And that dialogue can show, you can show your personality, or you could show your language in that dialogue without having to switch to talking like, whatever. It's meeting people where they're at. I think that's the term that I could think of, is meeting them where they're at. Where are they, and how can you best, like Dayna said, get your message across to them without there being misunderstanding or, wherever that. And it's like when you deal with your customers, you got to meet them where they're at. Like, you don't go in, or if you've seen that when you go in and you give them literally the best lip balm, y'all. But when we lost her. She done kicked out. But when she comes back, like when you have customers, right, and you give your customers too much, they're like, wait, I didn't ask for all that, or I'm not here. Like, all I needed was this piece. The same is going to be said to Andriana's point. If you're going in and you're talking to people who are not mothers, who've not given birth to kids, like even a husband who's been by his wife will never understand what she went through what she could have possibly been feeling, especially with the things that, you know, Andriana, Nicole, and their collective are talking about. They're talking about some very heavy things that I don't care if a man was right there holding his wife's hand, he'll never understand that, you know, the mental, the physical, all the things, the emotional tolls that it takes. So you can't go in there with like, this is what women are suffering from. I'm not going to say they don't care, because we'll let them put that out there. But it's you know, I can't understand that to begin with. So you have to, again, you have to bring it to me like, look, this is where we're at. And I mean, maybe she's thinking code switching on a level of like being like sir and ma'am. I don't know. But you can't walk in and be like, bruh.
Right. Yeah. So you got to be respectful, but I think that's a given. But I think regardless, there's a space for all of it. And you have to go for it. You have to go for it and know that you are worthy of it. I think so many times people talk themselves out of what they are worth and what they deserve. And so that's a mindset thing. That's a you thing. You think you can't get in front of those people. You think you can't get in the room, but you can. You just need to move and be resilient.
Yeah, because a lot of times the things that you think are your setback or something holding you, is you're the only person that's paying attention to it. Like they may have never noticed you said ain't.
Right. And that's the thing. I'm like, have you listened to some of these
right?
Because I'm like, they country than a book. I've been like, wait, what?
Yeah. So that's exactly. And that's the thing. Like, great point to close out on is that a lot of the things that are stopping you from getting in those right rooms, those right places, girl, you're back in time. So just kind of tell you, like we were saying before we were letting everybody go, is that a lot of things that you may be seeing, like your ain't or your tone, people are probably not hearing. A lot of it is probably just a mindset. You're afraid that it's going to hold you back because you may be seen less than, or she's ghetto, or she's just, you know, some country belle from, she'll know what she's talking about. Like, they're probably not even hearing it. And Dayna's making the point that some of these legislators are like as country as they come. So that's something you got to work with yourself. And even if, like Dayna said before you popped back on, you just have to go for it. So it's going to be scary as heck. Even if you were the most proper person, it would still be scary to go up against, you know, state representatives, legislators. Like, these are people that probably really have RBF face and are like, I have 10 million other things on my docket to do. Like, let's get with the program. So it's going to be nerving anyway. And just do it. And just like an interview, you could say to, you know, hey, you sent the email saying this wasn't going to work. You know, what was missing? What could we have presented better? Because we're going to be right back in front of you here in whenever your next open appointment is. So what can we do to get, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to hurt to ask. And if not, they'll just get annoyed with seeing you. And eventually they'll be like, look, just do what they need to do. So they'll leave us alone. I mean, it's a mindset thing, and we probably heavily more your mindset than what they're really going to hear. Because I think everybody would rise to the occasion, something that important to you and your passion. If you're given the open door, I don't see you going in there and being like, listen, bruh, like, we got to do. I see you going in there like, you know, this is what it is, giving them it. I think you would shock the crap out of yourself.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to that moment. Like you said, I think it's in my mind because y'all pointed it out to me. Y'all said my accent is strong. I don't want to go in no type of professional meeting sounding like a country bumpkin because I don't hear that.
But your accent is you, right? Like that is, you don't want somebody saying, I'm from, I don't even know where that part of Arkansas is. I only know Little Rock. So if somebody walks into your office and like, I'm from Arkansas, and they sound like they're from New York, it just sounds like, okay, are you? Like, you're carrying literally everything on you in your person. So I don't think you should like you can't hide that. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It makes you different than, you know, the person standing next to you. It makes you different from us. Like, she's got the country accent. Like, it could be your thing. Oh no, it's the one with the really deep Southern accent, right? So it's just, you know, I think you would rise to the occasion because it's important to you, and clearly, you know, you've switched things up. You're moving more in that direction. You're getting out of your comfort zone. I don't think that ain't would be an issue. I think you would go in, and I mean, nerves are nerves, and I would imagine that anybody on that level is used to people being nervous. You got this. And you're going to come on that episode, whatever week that is afterwards, and tell us how you went in there and slayed the beast and how we're getting all these laws changed. So we're speaking that. The rest of it we're releasing. Y'all, we would love to hear where you stand on getting into the right rooms in front of the right people. Are you doing it? Are you holding yourself back with maybe kind of a mindset thing that Andriana's got going on? I think we've all been there. I've been there. I took a year to really, you know, kick that habit because it can be limiting. But we got you. We'd love to hear you sound off in the comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Any questions? Y'all know you may get a whole episode dedicated to your questions. So drop them in the comments. Reach out to us. We would love to have you on, have a discussion with you every Wednesday. Here, same time, same place. Catch the replays over on YouTube. Click that link. Go and follow us. Get in our inboxes. We appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you next week, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central. Until then, be good.